The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, broadcasting simultaneously across every screen and communication device on Earth. The static-filled transmission showed a creature that seemed to be a blend of crystalline structures and organic matter, its voice resonating with harmonic undertones that made windows vibrate. People of Earth, I am High Administrator Vexthor of the Stellar Federation. Your planet has been operating autonomously in Federation space without proper authorization or tribute. This ends now. In the UN Security Council chamber, Secretary General Elena Martinez watched the broadcast with growing dread. Around her, representatives from every major nation sat in stunned silence. The alien continued its speech, each word carrying the weight of centuries of absolute authority. Your species has been monitored since you first split the atom. We have watched your technological progress with increasing concern. Unregulated development of a primitive species poses unacceptable risks to galactic stability. Dr. James Chen, Earth's leading xenobiologist, leaned forward in his seat at the back of the chamber. After years of searching for extraterrestrial life, humanity's first contact was happening, but not in the way anyone had hoped. The Federation requires immediate compliance with our resource management protocols. Your planet will surrender 60% of its mineral resources, 40% of its biological resources, and all advanced technological research for Federation oversight. Compliance is mandatory. You have 30 Earth days to begin resource transfer preparations. The chamber erupted in outrage. The Chinese representative stood up, face flushed with anger. This is extortion. We will not surrender humanity's birthright to alien pirates. Martinez raised her hand for silence, her mind racing. 20 years of diplomatic experience hadn't prepared her for negotiating with an advanced alien civilization. High Administrator, she spoke carefully, surely we can discuss terms that would be mutually beneficial. Earth would gladly join your Federation as equal partners. The crystalline being's laughter cut through her words, a sound like breaking glass. Equal partners. Your species barely understands basic void travel. You are children playing with forces beyond your comprehension. The Federation does not negotiate with primitive worlds. We protect them, for a price. In the Pentagon's underground command center, General Sarah Blackwood watched the transmission with narrowed eyes. Unlike the politicians, she saw past the aliens' sophisticated appearance to the familiar tactics beneath. They're not here to protect us, she muttered to her staff. This is a protection racket on a galactic scale. The aliens' final words confirmed her suspicion. Attempt to resist, and your civilization will face immediate containment protocols. We have enforced galactic peace for 10,000 years. Your compliance will ensure your species' survival under our benevolent guidance. The transmission ended, leaving Earth's leaders staring at blank screens. In the silence that followed, Martinez turned to address the assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, we face the greatest crisis in human history. Our response must be unified and decisive. But unity proved elusive in the days that followed. Nations blamed each other for drawing alien attention. Some argued for immediate compliance, hoping to buy time. Others called for military preparation, despite humanity's clear technological disadvantage. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly, analyzing every frame of the transmission. Their technology is advanced, he reported to the Emergency Council, but not incomprehensible. The crystalline structures in their biology suggest evolution in a high-radiation environment. They're not gods. They're just ahead of us on the technological curve. General Blackwood seized on this. Every technology has weaknesses. Every empire has blind spots. We've spent centuries fighting among ourselves, perfecting the art of warfare against technologically superior opponents. Maybe it's time to put that experience to use. In a secure facility beneath the Australian outback, Dr. Maya Patel reviewed the data from Earth's deep space monitoring stations. The Federation ships in orbit were massive, but their energy signatures revealed interesting patterns. They're running hot, she noted. All that power has to go somewhere. And where there's inefficiency, there's opportunity. Martinez spent sleepless nights weighing options. The Federation's demands would cripple Earth's development, relegating humanity to permanent second-class status. Resistance seemed suicidal, but surrender meant a slow death for human potential. A week after the ultimatum, she called a closed session of the Security Council. "We've all seen the intelligence reports. The Federation is vast, but they're stretched thin. They rely on fear and overwhelming force to maintain control. They expect us to be primitive, disorganized, and afraid." She stood, her decision made. "I say we show them how dangerous a primitive species can be when fighting for its future." Humanity didn't climb from the caves to the stars by surrendering to bullies, no matter how advanced they claimed to be. The plan that emerged was audacious, perhaps insane. Earth would appear to comply while secretly preparing for resistance. Every nation would contribute resources and expertise to a unified defense program. Old rivalries would be set aside in the face of extinction. "We're not just fighting for resources," Martinez told the Assembly. "We're fighting for humanity's right to determine its own destiny. The Federation sees us as children to be controlled. Let's show them how quickly children can grow up." In labs and factories around the world, humans began working with desperate intensity. Federation surveillance satellites watched Earth's apparent preparations for resource surrender, while underground, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Dr. Patel's team worked on adapting Earth's technology to counter Federation advantages. General Blackwood's strategists studied historical guerrilla warfare tactics, adapting them for space combat. Dr. Chen's insights into Federation biology led to new defensive technologies. As the deadline approached, High Administrator Vexthor received reports of Earth's compliance with smug satisfaction. Another primitive world successfully integrated into the Federation's perfect order. The humans were learning their place in the galaxy. He couldn't have been more wrong. In hidden facilities around the globe, humanity was preparing to teach the Federation a lesson about underestimating primitive species. The countdown to resistance had begun, and Earth's response would shake the foundations of galactic society. 3 kilometers beneath the Himalayas, Project Phoenix took shape in a sprawling complex carved from living rock. The facility hummed with activity as scientists and engineers from every nation worked to transform humanity's understanding of technology. Time was running out. The Federation's resource collection ships would arrive in just 2 weeks. Dr. Maya Patel stood before a holographic display of their latest prototype, her eyes reflecting the blue glow of quantum calculations. The Federation's ships use crystalline matrices for their computational systems, she explained to the assembled team. "It's elegant, but predictable. We're taking a different approach." Behind her, a series of experimental processors combined traditional quantum computing with biological neural networks, a hybrid technology that seemed primitive by Federation standards, but operated in ways their systems couldn't predict. "They expect us to follow their technological evolution path," Maya continued. "That's their first mistake." In another section of the facility, Dr. James Chen supervised the integration of salvaged Federation technology with human innovations. A captured communication array lay partially disassembled on his workbench, its crystalline components revealing secrets about their creator's assumptions. "Their entire civilization is built on crystalline technology," he reported to General Blackwood during her daily inspection. "It's incredibly advanced, but they've stopped looking for alternatives. They'd gotten comfortable." The general nodded, watching as engineers tested a new weapon system that combined Federation power sources with human ingenuity. "Comfort kills more soldiers than combat," she observed. "How soon can we begin production?" "The prototypes are ready," Chen replied. "We've distributed the plans to hidden facilities worldwide. The Federation's satellites see only routine industrial activity, but every factory is being retooled in secret." Secretary General Martinez arrived for her weekly briefing, looking exhausted but determined. The political situation above ground was deteriorating as the deadline approached. Some nations were wavering, tempted by Federation promises of technological gifts for early compliance. "Show me something good," she said, following Blackwood to the testing range. They watched through protective screens as Maya's team demonstrated their latest achievement, a Federation shield generator, considered impenetrable by its creators, shattered under the impact of a focused gravitational pulse that approached problems from an entirely human perspective. "They rely on deflection and energy absorption," Maya explained. "We're bypassing their defenses entirely by manipulating space itself. It's crude by their standards, but it works." The project's innovations weren't limited to weapons. Teams of programmers developed viral algorithms that could infiltrate Federation systems, speaking their language but thinking in human terms. Agricultural scientists engineered new strains of bacteria that could rapidly process raw materials into usable forms, preparing for the logistics of a long resistance. Most importantly, humanity learned to work together as never before. Old enemies shared secrets, rival corporations pooled resources, and competing scientists collaborated on solutions. The threat of extinction proved to be a powerful motivator for cooperation. In orbit, Federation observers noted increased human activity, but dismissed it as primitive attempts to comply with their demands. Their scans showed nothing that approached their level of technology. They didn't realize that humanity's greatest advances were happening in ways their crystalline sensors couldn't comprehend. 2 days before the deadline, Project Phoenix entered its final phase. Hidden factories worldwide began mass-producing their hybrid technologies. Military personnel trained on simulators that combined Federation tactical data with centuries of human combat experience. A new kind of army was taking shape, one that would fight in ways the Federation had never encountered. "We're not trying to match their technology," General Blackwood explained during the final briefing. "We're going to fight smarter, not harder. Hit-and-run tactics, guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. We'll make them fight on our terms." Dr. Chen's biological research had revealed crucial weaknesses in Federation physiology. Their crystalline components are sensitive to specific frequencies of radiation, he reported. Their ships are shielded against known weapons, but not against the unconventional approaches we've developed. Maya's team had created a network of quantum biological computers that could coordinate Earth's defenses while remaining invisible to Federation scans. "They're looking for technology they understand," she said. "Everything we've built operates on principles they've never considered." The night before the deadline, Martinez addressed the project leaders. "Tomorrow, the Federation expects us to begin surrendering our planet's resources. Instead, we're going to teach them why humanity has survived every crisis we faced. We're adaptable, we're innovative, and most importantly, we're willing to fight." General Blackwood reviewed the defensive positions one final time. Federation ships would be met with apparent compliance, right until they entered the kill zone. Earth's surface showed only scattered defenses, while the real weapons waited in caverns, underwater bases, and camouflaged orbital platforms. "Remember," she told her commanders, "we're not just fighting for resources. We're fighting for humanity's right to grow, to innovate, to determine our own path. The Federation thinks they're shepherding primitive species. We're going to show them that humanity doesn't need shepherds." In his orbiting flagship, High Administrator Vexthor prepared for what he expected to be a routine resource collection. His reports showed a primitive species scrambling to comply with Federation demands. There were a few signs of potential resistance, but nothing his forces couldn't handle. He had no way of knowing that humanity was about to rewrite his understanding of primitive species. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, Project Phoenix was ready to rise from the ashes of first contact, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Federation's resource collection fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their crystalline ships glittering like artificial constellations against the void. High Administrator Vexthor stood on his flagship's command deck, watching with satisfaction as his sensors detected human transport vessels moving to meet them. Right on schedule, just as expected from a properly subjugated species. "Begin approach vector," he commanded, his crystalline features reflecting the starlight. "Prepare collection vessels for resource transfer." Deep beneath the Himalayas, General Blackwood watched the Federation fleet's approach on Project Phoenix's quantum biological displays. The enemy ships appeared as complex patterns of light and energy, their movements tracked by systems that operated beyond Federation understanding. She keyed her comm, speaking to all Earth Defense Forces. Operation Thunderbolt is now active. All units maintain emissions control. Remember your training. We strike on my mark. The Federation fleet moved past Mars, their formation perfectly arranged according to 10,000 years of standardized protocols. Their sensors swept space with crystalline precision, detecting nothing but the expected human vessels and orbital installations. Dr. Maya Patil monitored her hybrid computing network from her station beside Blackwood. Their scan patterns are exactly as predicted, she reported. They're not even looking for our quantum signatures. The stealth systems are holding. In orbit and scattered throughout the solar system, humanity's real defense forces waited in perfect silence. Their ships, small and dark against the void, were virtually invisible to Federation technology. They had trained for months for this moment, practicing maneuvers that would have seemed insane by Federation tactical doctrine. Secretary General Martinez stood in the command center, her hands clasped behind her back. "Send the compliance message," she ordered. A transmission beamed out to the Federation fleet, carrying all the expected subservient phrases and protocols. Vexthor received the message with a dismissive gesture. "At least these primitives understand their place," he remarked to his command staff. "Begin resource collection sequence. Deploy the harvester ships." The Federation fleet split into its component task forces, spreading out to take up optimal collection positions around Earth. Their formation was flawless, their movements precise, and completely predictable. "They're in position," Blackwood announced. "All units, execute Phase 1. The first indication that something was wrong came from a Federation scout ship at the edge of the fleet. Its crystalline sensors detected an anomalous energy spike, but before it could report, a focused gravitational pulse shattered its computational matrix. The ship died silently, its destruction masked by the sun's radiation. Similar silent deaths spread through the Federation fleet's outer screen. Human ships, moving on trajectories that Federation tactical doctrine considered impossible, struck with weapons that bypassed advanced shields by attacking space itself. On his flagship, Vexthor's first warning was the sudden loss of contact with his screening elements. "Report," he demanded, his crystalline form vibrating with alarm. Multiple ships not responding, his sensor officer reported, confusion evident in his harmonic tones. "No weapons signatures detected, no debris fields. They're just gone." "Impossible," Vexthor began, but then his flagship shuddered as something struck its supposedly impenetrable shields. Alarms screamed as systems began failing in patterns that made no sense to Federation engineers. "Launch fighters," he ordered. "Full defensive formation." But the Federation's fighters, emerging from their carriers, found themselves engaged by human craft that refused to fight according to any known tactical doctrine. Earth's ships dove through debris fields, used gravitational slingshots around planetary bodies, and employed electronic warfare systems that turned the Federation's crystalline technology against itself. Dr. Chen watched from the command center as his biological countermeasures took effect. Federation ships began experiencing cascading failures as engineered particles, invisible to their sensors, interfaced with their crystalline systems in ways their designers had never imagined possible. "Their technology is fighting itself," he reported with grim satisfaction. "The crystalline matrices are trying to adapt, but they can't handle the organic randomness we introduced." The Federation fleet's perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Ships designed to fight in formation found themselves isolated and surrounded. Tactics developed over 10,000 years of unchallenged dominance proved worse than useless against an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "All units, execute Phase 2, Blackwood commanded. Human ships that had been hiding in the Lagrange points suddenly accelerated, their hybrid drives pushing the limits of physics. They struck the Federation fleet from multiple angles simultaneously, their weapons targeting specific vulnerabilities that Dr. Chen's research had identified. Vexthor watched in horror as his carefully orchestrated collection mission transformed into a military disaster. "This is impossible," he raged. "They're primitives. Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Sir," his tactical officer's voice shook with disbelief, "they're not fighting like primitives. They're not fighting like anything we've ever encountered." Federation ships began to retreat, their crews shocked by the violence and unpredictability of human tactics. But humanity had spent months preparing for this moment, and retreat would not be easy. Mina's quantum network tracked every Federation attempt to escape, predicting their standardized emergency protocols and positioning human forces accordingly. Ships trying to flee found their hyperspace routes blocked, their communication channels jammed with signals that turned their crystalline matrices into security hazards. "Message from the Secretary General," Chen reported, allowing himself a small smile. "She's offering them terms for surrender." The irony was not lost on anyone in the command center. The Federation fleet, which had arrived to collect tribute from primitives, now found itself fighting for survival against an enemy that had completely rewritten the rules of space combat. As Vexthor stared at the tactical display, watching his fleet being systematically dismantled by supposedly primitive humans, he finally understood the Federation's fatal mistake. They had assumed that technological advancement followed a single path, that their way was the only way. Instead, they had pushed humanity to develop alternatives, to think differently, to fight differently. The battle for Earth would become a legend in galactic history, not just for its outcome, but for how it demonstrated that true intelligence wasn't about following established patterns, but about adapting, innovating, and refusing to accept limitations imposed by others. News of Earth's victory spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. At first, the Federation tried to suppress the information, classifying the battle as a minor setback in a routine collection operation. But the truth couldn't be contained. Too many ships had been lost. Too many crews had fled in panic, and too many encrypted communications had been intercepted by listening posts across Federation space. On Centauri Prime, a major Federation trading hub, alien merchants whispered in backrooms about how a primitive species had shattered the most powerful fleet in their sector. The stories grew with each telling. Humans fighting like demons, weapons that ignored Federation shields, ships that moved in ways that defied physics. Dr. Maya Patel found herself analyzing streams of intercepted Federation communications, watching the ripples of Earth's victory spread. "They're panicking," she reported to Secretary General Martinez. "Their entire power structure is built on the assumption of technological superiority. We didn't just defeat their fleet, we challenged their worldview." The Federation Council convened an emergency session on their capital world, their crystalline chamber vibrating with discord. High Administrator Vexthor, recalled in disgrace, faced his peers. "How did this happen?" demanded Council Leader Zix, her crystalline form pulsing with angry colors. "You lost our most advanced fleet to primitives who barely understand void travel. They are not what we thought," Vexthor replied, his once proud voice now haunted. "They don't think like us, don't fight like us. They took our technologies and changed them, combined them with methods we never considered. On a dozen subjugated worlds, the news sparked something that had been missing for generations: hope. The Arcturians, a species of silicon-based philosophers who had been reduced to mining their own world for the Federation, began secret meetings in their deep caverns. The Proxans, energy beings confined to regulated habitats, started testing their barriers in new ways. General Blackwood monitored these developments from Earth's new intelligence center. "Every species the Federation dominated is watching us now," she told her staff. "They're waiting to see if we can hold what we've won." The Federation's response was predictable. They began assembling an even larger fleet, drawing ships from across their territory. But this movement created opportunities that Earth's leaders had anticipated. Dr. Chen's network of informants reported growing unrest in Federation space. Their military redeployment is leaving gaps in their control network, he explained during a strategic briefing. Some species are already taking advantage. The Proxans have disabled 3 containment facilities. The Arcturians are sabotaging their mining quotas. Secretary General Martinez saw an opportunity. Send them our data, she ordered. Show them how we modified Federation technology, how we developed our hybrid systems. Let's give them tools to fight back. Earth began broadcasting on frequencies that the Federation had long ignored, sharing technical specifications and tactical innovations. Human diplomats made covert contact with resistance movements, offering support and coordination. Maya's quantum communication network expanded, linking scattered points of resistance into a coordinated web. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore, she realized. We're becoming a symbol, a proof that the Federation isn't invincible. The Federation's rigid hierarchy proved to be its weakness. Worlds that had been oppressed for generations began questioning orders, delaying shipments, misplacing critical resources. Each small act of defiance was insignificant alone, but together they formed a growing crisis. On New Terra, Earth's first off-world colony, Ambassador Sarah Chen, James Chen's daughter, hosted representatives from a dozen species. They met in secret, sharing stories of Federation oppression and dreams of freedom. Earth doesn't want to replace the Federation as rulers, she told them. We want to create something new. An alliance of equals, where each species develops in its own way. The Federation's response to this growing unrest revealed their desperation. They increased their demands on loyal worlds, trying to replace lost resources and ships. But this only fueled more resentment, more resistance. A pivotal moment came when the Proxans, using modified human technology, successfully defended their homeworld against a Federation punishment fleet. The news spread faster than the Federation could suppress it. A second species had broken free. In the Himalayan Command Center, Earth's leaders watched these developments with mixed emotions. They had hoped to buy time to strengthen their defenses, but events were moving faster than anyone had predicted. The Federation is losing control, Blackwood reported during an emergency session. But that makes them more dangerous. They'll risk everything to maintain their power. Martinez nodded grimly. Then we better make sure we're ready for their response. Send word to our allies, all of them. The Federation wants to make an example of Earth. Let them try. This time, we'll have friends standing with us. The Federation Council, watching their perfect order crumble, made a fatal mistake. They declared Earth a threat to galactic stability, ordering the complete destruction of humanity to discourage other rebellions. But their announcement had the opposite effect. Species that had been hesitating chose sides. The Arcturians openly declared their independence. The Proxans offered their energy manipulation technology to Earth's defenders. Even some Federation member species began questioning the wisdom of genocide. Maya's quantum network lit up with messages of support and offers of alliance. They're not just inspired by our victory, she told Martinez. They're inspired by how we won, by thinking differently, by refusing to accept artificial limitations. As the Federation assembled its massive armada for a final confrontation with Earth, they failed to understand what they were truly fighting. This wasn't just a battle against one primitive species anymore. It was the beginning of a revolution, a fundamental challenge to the idea that any one civilization's path was the only path to the stars. The Federation's Grand Armada gathered at the edge of Sol System, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships filled space with their crystalline gleam, a testament to 10 millennia of unopposed dominance. In the Federation Council chamber, the leaders watched with cold satisfaction. This would be the end of the human problem. But Earth was no longer alone. As Federation ships took their formation, sensors detected unusual energy signatures approaching from multiple vectors. The Proxans arrived first, their energy-formed ships gliding through space like living lightning. Then came the Arcturian Defense Fleet, their vessels incorporating both Federation salvage and human innovations. More allies emerged from hyperspace, species that had suffered under Federation rule for generations, now united by the promise of freedom. From her command center beneath the Himalayas, Secretary General Martinez surveyed the combined fleet. "To think," she mused, "a year ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're leading an alliance of species against galactic tyrants." Dr. Maya Patel's quantum network hummed with activity, coordinating the movements of dozens of different species ships. "The Federation's still trying to process what they're seeing," she reported. "Their tactical computers can't adapt to so many different technologies working together." The Federation flagship's commander, Supreme Admiral Zixus, stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered, his crystalline form vibrating with rage. "These lesser species cannot coordinate such complex operations. Their technologies are incompatible." But Earth had shown its allies that incompatibility was an opportunity, not a limitation. Dr. Chen's research team had worked tirelessly to help each species modify their technology in unique ways, creating a defense network that was devastatingly unpredictable. "The Federation expects everything to follow their patterns," General Blackwood explained to the Allied commanders in their final briefing. "Our strength lies in our differences. Fight in your own way, support each other, and show them what free species can do." The battle began with a Federation attack that should have been overwhelming. Thousands of ships launched a perfectly coordinated strike, their formation honed by millennia of unopposed victories. But their targets refused to play by Federation rules. Proxon energy vessels phased through solid matter to strike from impossible angles. Arcturian ships used modified human gravity weapons to turn asteroid fields into weapon systems. Earth's vessels demonstrated combat maneuvers that violated Federation tactical doctrine, creating chaos in their perfect formations. In the Federation Council chamber, the leaders watched in horror as their ultimate fleet was carved apart by tactics they couldn't comprehend. Ships that should have been invincible fell to weapons that shouldn't have existed. Strategies that had won 1,000 battles proved worse than useless against an enemy that refused to fight conventionally. "We offered them order," High Counselor Vex roared, his crystalline form cracking with stress. "We gave the galaxy peace through unity, through conformity." "No," Martinez's voice came through on all frequencies, broadcast to every ship in both fleets. "You enforced stagnation. You denied species the right to grow, to change, to find their own paths to the stars. That ends today." The Alliance fleet demonstrated what cooperation between truly independent species could achieve. Human tactical innovations combined with Proxon energy manipulation and Arcturian crystal technology. Smaller species contributed unique perspectives that turned their perceived weaknesses into strategic advantages. Dr. Chen, watching the battle unfold, understood the deeper significance. "This isn't just a military victory," he told Martinez. "We're showing the galaxy a new way forward. Unity without uniformity. Progress without conformity." The Federation fleet's formation finally shattered. Ships began retreating in panic, their crews faced with something they had never imagined possible: defeat at the hands of lesser species. But this time, there would be no regrouping for another attack. As the battle ended, the quantum network carried messages from across Federation space. Inspired by the Alliance's victory, dozens of species were rising up, declaring their independence. The Federation's perfect order was collapsing, not from military defeat alone, but from the power of an idea that different paths to advancement were not just possible, but valuable. 1 month later, representatives from over 50 species gathered on Earth for the first Galactic Concordat. The Great Chamber of the UN had been modified to accommodate beings of all forms: energy fields for the Proxons, crystalline interfaces for silicon-based life, and countless other adaptations. Secretary General Martinez addressed the historic gathering. "We gather not to create a new empire, but to ensure no empire ever rises again. Each species must be free to develop in their own way, to contribute their unique perspectives to our shared future among the stars." The Federation's remnants were offered a choice: adapt to a new galaxy of equals, or fade into isolation. Many chose to join the Concordat, their crystalline technology finding new applications when freed from rigid doctrine. Others retreated to their core worlds, clinging to their beliefs in their own superiority. Dr. Maya Patel's quantum network became the foundation for a new form of galactic communication, one that could adapt to any species' method of information processing. Think of it, she told her mixed species research team. Each new perspective we incorporate makes the network stronger, more flexible. That's what the Federation never understood. General Blackwood found herself teaching at a new institution, the Concordat Defense Academy, where species from across the galaxy learn not just tactics and technology, but how to think beyond their own evolutionary perspectives. And Dr. Chen, ever the scientist, saw humanity's greatest victory not in the battles won, but in the barriers broken. "We didn't just prove ourselves to the galaxy," he wrote in his memoirs. "We proved that the path to the stars has room for everyone's footprints, whatever shape they may take."